copy of this little pamphlet. The table of contents is 10 pages alone, but at least grab one of these, and I think it might be meaningful. Did everybody get a copy of this little package? Or how about these two little other handouts? Did you get these other Champster ones? No? Okay. If you didn't, don't worry, we'll have them sent to you if you want them. But I'm going to share with you the steps that I take whenever when I meet new families. And luckily I've been able to do this now around the world with the ITF coaching federations, and they're really big on the triangle of educating the parents, players, and coaches. And it seems right now in the U.S. anyway, we're a little bit behind. We haven't been educating parents. There's a lot of clubs that have no parent policy. Look, just drop off your kid and don't get out of the car, that kind of thing. But my opinion is kind of polar opposite. But we're going to have some fun with this first. And what I recommend, really simple, is when you meet new clients, fight off the urge to impair your knowledge right off the bat and start feeding balls and changing strokes. Instead, chill out a little bit and listen. Listen to their tennis IQ. Listen, try to figure out their personality profile, their desires, their weaknesses, their strengths, their efficiencies, deficiencies. And by doing that, I've been pretty lucky. At last count, the kids that I've been training in California, they've won about 77 national titles. From the tennis parent standpoint, my daughter started at 10 and played the adult U.S. Open at 15. And so this stuff works. If you want to use it, I'd love for you to take anything you can get out of it. So I'm going to try a couple new things that I've never done before too, because I kind of like this approach. This is the initial, and again, I'll give you a copy of this. If you need this, we'll send it to you. This is a sample of some of the questions that I'll sit down and ask the parents and players before we hit a single ball. Yesterday, I did 6 hours with a kid from Washington, D.C. They drove down, and we spent actually 3 hours working on this booklet before we even hit a ball. And this is a top kid in the nation, so it might be meaningful. So what we're looking for, though, is nonverbal clues. Okay, you're trying to figure out their personality profile. You're going to look at their facial expressions, body language, posture, volume or intonation of their voice. All these things are going to give you information as to what brain type this child has. I mean, it's kind of like a Myers-Briggs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on today. So did anybody already use Myers-Briggs when they profile their athletes? Not yet? Okay, we'll talk about it a little bit. I'll give you some insight as to how the reason why some people play the way they do. Some are natural counter punchers, retrievers, moonball pushers. Some are crazy, reckless net rushers. It's because they're wired like that. And if you can easily figure out how they're wired, and then you can do something really cool. You can maximize their potential at a quicker rate. If you're training them to play a style that opposes their personality, you're in trouble right off the bat. So we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit. Let's go through some of these questions that I use often. So this is even yesterday, but what division are you playing is a good question for the kid. Do you have a club, sectional, national, or ITF ranking? And we use these also for adult tennis lessons. I think it's important. It's important to understand, too, even if you're teaching adults in a total beginning class, not every beginner is the same. We had an adult beginning class with one of my assistant coaches in California. One gal was an accountant. She was in her mid-40s. She's never played a sport in her life. The very next girl next to her won the Olympic gold in swimming. Two very different athletic backgrounds, right? And they're both in the beginning class. So it's important. You want to figure that out before you start feeding balls. So tell me about your athletic history. I would ask the child that and ask the parents that. The fun thing, too, about this whole session is the parents almost always have opposing opinions. So the child will say, yeah, man, I'm great at that. And the parent right behind is going, so you get opposing things, but it's kind of cool to see. Tell me about your tennis entourage. We want the children to be talking because we're trying to figure out during their little speeches here, do they have off-court trainers, mental emotional trainers, technical teachers? Do they have maybe high school or college hitters? Are they in academies? What's their entourage? Obviously with that is what are their goals? A kid that comes and says, man, I just want to play high school JV. I'm happy. Right? That's different than a kid that says, I want to play D1 college. So it's a whole different pathway, right? You guys with me so far? What's your current weekly training regimen? And for me, it's really important, though. It's like the school methodology. When we have these kids go to school, they go to math for an hour, science, English for an hour. They come to the tennis court, though, to practice, and often coaches, what we do on accident is we only work on primary strokes. That's only one subject. It's like doing math class all day, every day for 6 years. So in tennis training, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but we want you to cover all the components. So work on primary strokes, secondary strokes, that's big, mental, emotional. And from my side, there's a big difference between mental and emotional. Because a lot of times parents and even coaches are confused. They go, my kid's not mentally tough. She can't handle cheaters. Well, that's performance anxiety. That's emotional toughness. So the mental side is the X's and O's of strategies and tactics. Like, do you know your own personal top 7 patterns? Do you know I call it your global strategy. Who are you? Like if you're Andy Roddick, you'd go to every city, whether Miami or Moscow, first round or finals, clay or grass. You're going to run your top patterns. You're going to do what you do best. Most kids don't know that. And it's our job as coaches to understand that part. So I think that's big. We want these kids to understand strategies, the mental side of knowing your game, but then also knowing how to beat pushers, retrievers, what are the best patterns, shot sequencing patterns to beat a pusher, what's the best patterns to beat a hard-hitting baseliner, that type of thing. And of course, can you guys name a few? What are some of the common performance anxieties that you hear from the parents after the match? Can you guys name a few? Well, we're going to make it more of an information exchange. So we want to banter back and forth a little bit more when we do this kind of stuff. It's more fun for me, and then I learn a lot more. Then I get to go home and steal it and tell everybody. No, but all right. So performance anxieties. What do they say? You guys get the same calls I get. My kid was up 5-2. They choked. My kid was cheated out of the match. The person hooked 3 times. But if you have the parents charting, the parent can go, yeah, well, honey, you were hooked 3 times, but you made 68 unforced errors in the same match. But it's important that the parents are educated. There's a lot of performance anxieties, but we'll be covering that stuff a little bit. So a couple more of these questions that I think it might be meaningful if you start your lessons. And when you do your initial lesson, try to do it with the parent and the player. Because I guarantee you, if you're listening to the parent, they're going to love you. If you tell the parent, butt out, you're already in trouble. You only have a matter of time. So listening is kind of big. Tell me about your pre-match preparation. That's important. We're going to be talking about how like Rafa Nadal morphs into an athletic warrior before the match. We'll cover that a little bit. What style of opponent do you hate to play the most? That's a big question. Because if you have a kid that comes out, let's say you have an academy, and the kid and the parents go, we can't beat moonball pushers. I just hate playing moonball pushers. It's not in their best interest to put them on court 6 and have them rally hard cross court. That's not going to ever help beating a moonball pusher. So we have to customize it to the kid's personality. I'll do just a few more of these. Again, if you want this list of questions, we'll send it over to you. What's your shot tolerance level? Is it like a Serena that they hit 4 or 5 balls a rally? Or do they want to hit 20? It's interesting, though. You see certain kids, and there's a long 10, 12 ball rally, and one kid is thinking, man, I am going to kill somebody if this comes back one more time. And the other kid's going, this is great. It could go to 30. And they're totally different personalities. So we want to figure that out a little bit before you kind of get into the lessons. Do you enjoy surprises or avoid surprises? Are you comfortable being spontaneous or deliberate and more regimented? Anyway, so we'll get that out to you if you want that. But try to start your lessons off with asking questions instead of imparting your knowledge. I think it might be meaningful. All right, so you guys okay with that little intro thing? All right, let's go for this. Again, what I recommend is begin to educate the tennis parents a little bit as well. And you'll see later on, we'll talk during the PowerPoint, how it's really powerful. You're going to keep students in the game longer. Some of the benefits might be you're definitely going to maximize player potential at a quicker rate if you do this. You're going to keep people in the game. So everybody talks about the 10 and under and growing the game, keeping people in the game and getting people to start to play. Well, you've probably heard the stats that 70% of the athletes quit by 13 or 14. 70% quit sports. And guess what the number one reason is? Any idea? Number one reason for why kids quit playing sports.
Baseball.
It's not a sport. It's parents. It's crazy parents. That's the number one reason in every sport. So anyway. All right, so I'm going to share with you this little package. This is just a real basic one we do with real big groups. The one we do with privates is probably 10 pages longer, but let's go through the basic one all together. And again, we'll make it more of an information exchange, so you don't need to hold your hand. Just shout out any questions or any answers that might help everybody, okay? All right, fast forward over to the very first chapter it's called Organizing Your Career and Your Team. You can skip the intro. I'm going to give you the quick version. The child's going to circle on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 if they think they're really super crummy, 10 if they think they're great. And there's all these different components. The first component is how organized are they in their knowledge of the team. So I want to know about parent-player relationships. They're going to circle their feeling. And usually there's one primary tennis parent, right? That will take them to lessons, take them to tournaments. Player-coach relationship. I want to know about that a little bit. I want to know how many coaches they have and which coaches. How many people here are tennis club directors? Is everybody director? How many are still teaching on the court though? Teachers. Okay, cool. Any teachers and parents? Oh yeah, God bless you. Yeah. How was it so far being a coach and a parent?
I can't stay out of the parenting part of it and let my wife handle that.
Okay. So she does the tennis parenting and you do the coaching?
No, he makes me leave.
During the lessons or the matches?
Lessons.
Okay.
Lessons.
All right, let's go through. So why do you make your wife leave? Get Starbucks?
She's coaching on the sideline the whole time.
Okay, so all right, that's a good point. So in sports science, they call it channel capacity. The human brain can't solve 2 complicated tasks at once. So why you're not allowed to text and drive. Too complicated. So maybe, it could be this happens a lot with different parents, but it's all in the best intentions. But the coach is trying to teach, for example, the ball toss on the serve. And the parent on the side is yelling things like, he's not bending his knees. You know, and the other kid's so confused, they don't get anything out of the... So, typical. Who else is a tennis parent? Parent, right? Did you a parent? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so tell me about any dramas or traumas.
Well, I find, I have 2 kids, and they're, one's the polar opposite of the other.
Okay.
One's always much more open, one is more questioning what used to always question.
So he's already doing personality profiling. He has 2 kids opposing personalities, yeah? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get twins and they're wired opposite. So what were some of any tough issues with having the, you can't train them the same, right?
No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
As a parent or as a coach, it was much easier with the child who was always more open. And I think she felt she could distinguish the difference between a parent and a coach.
Okay.
Better than my son would, basically.
Is that one of those issues where they might accept the same information from somebody else, but because it's coming from the parent, it's a little bit tougher?
Well, I think for one, yes. For
Yeah.
the other, no.
Okay. Let's go into that a little bit, because it's understanding your personality profile or your brain type. John Neednagel has a great book called Your Key to Sports Success, and he talks about the pros on the tour, how they're wired, and how they play because of their personality profile. But is it okay if we take a minute and kind of go through this brain typing and how it might affect you? I guarantee you, you'll be light years ahead of the club up the street if you start using this a little bit more. This is another handout that it's called mental predispositions that we can send you if you want it. I'm going to just cut to the chase and go to the back. And let's talk for a second about Myers-Briggs. There's 16 different personalities in the world. 16 different ones. There's 4 different groups of 4. And how players are wired, it just determine kind of how they problem solve, how they see the world. So let's go through a couple of them just for fun and see if you can pick out your own personal brain type. Okay? See if you can pick it out. Here's the first 2 in the categories. It's introverts and extroverts. So introverts are comfortable lying back and then retaliating. They need alone time to recharge their batteries, and they prefer to be in their inner world. Any introverts in the? Or do you guys have any students that are introverts like that? All right. How about extroverts? They enjoy making things happen, as they prefer to initiate the action, and they gain energy by bringing people together. They love being with people. They can go to a party, come home, go to another party. They love being around people. Any extroverts in the room? Yeah? Okay, good. How many? Interesting, with tennis teachers, about 80% are introverted. But you get a guy like Vic Braden, massive extrovert, Pied Piper, and that's a whole different personality profile. So if you're a teaching pro, try to nurture your extrovert side a little bit more. But if you have a player on the court, think about this. Introverts, they're comfortable laying back and then retaliating. So what style would that beginner most likely benefit? If they're morphing into a player, what style would they like? Kamikaze net rusher or counterpuncher? Right, comfortable laying back and then retaliating. How about the person that wants to make things happen when they want to initiate the action? The extroverts. What are they going to probably do on the court? Yeah, they're going to make it happen, man. They're going to go for winners. They're going to be kind of more of a bold player, offensive player probably. So guess what? You don't need to see a kid hit strokes. I can brain type a player, talk to them, and pretty much tell you that they all have the same efficiencies and deficiencies based on their personality. So let's go to the next one. Sensate versus intuitives. Sensates, they're people that prefer to collect all the data and facts before they make a decision. These are like the young kids that when they want to buy their first car, they're going to Google everything from the cylinders, the color, the type of radio, the size of the tires. Now, intuitive people are opposite. They kind of trust their gut instincts. They like to do first and analyze second. So if they're buying a car, they're going to go, man, I like that in silver. I'm getting one of those. They don't even care if there's a place for gas. That's cool. I'm getting a silver. Do you guys, how many people are more sensates in the room? They prefer getting all the facts before they make a decision. S's? All right, intuitive people. They like to do it first and then think about it later as they're... All right, so go through that. If you're teaching the game of doubles, which personality profile... Remember, they want to collect the data first before they make a decision. And the other one's going to kind of be do first, think about... Who's going to be better at poaching? Naturally. Intuitives, right? Intuitives go, man, I'm going. I'm going. I got a feeling that person's choking. I'm going. Intuitives. Sensates are like, I don't know. I got to test the wind. I'm not sure yet. And then they want all the facts before they go. Then they get to no man's land and volley at their feet. So you got to train sensates different than intuitives. That's all I'm saying. So I challenge you guys, think, go a little bit deeper. And the key is you want to get into their world. So this is one of the biggest statements. Don't pull your students into your world the way you think. That's a mistake. Try to figure out the way they think. Get into their world, okay? All right, you guys okay so far? All right, 2 more categories. Thinkers versus feelers. Thinkers, they make their decisions through objective logic, and they impersonalize the situation. It's thinkers. They don't get caught up in the emotion. Feelers are a little bit opposite. They're in tune to the emotional climate of the room. They can walk into the room and go, who's fighting? What's wrong? Feelers are very sensitive to that stuff. Which player, thinker or feelers, is going to have a lot of trouble dealing with gamesmanship at the competitive level? What do you think? Yeah. Feelers, right? Feelers. Thinkers will impersonalize the situation. Thinkers are great with just dropping their racket and going to get a line judge. Feelers are like, man, I don't know why they're doing this to me. Why are they accusing me of cheating? I didn't cheat. Did I really cheat? Maybe I didn't cheat. And now, remember channel capacity. Now they're so worried about the drama of the hook, they can't think about the performance goal of just serve to the backhand. So people that are creative line callers or kids that cheat, they're smart. They're using channel capacity. They're taking the opponent, they're pulling their brain out of their performance state of mind and pulling them into the drama. And now the kid that's getting cheated, they're gone for 3 games because they can't stand it. You get it? How many people in the room are thinkers versus feelers? Who's a thinker? Okay, feelers. Is anybody wired opposite your spouse? Yeah, it's interesting how when you're wired. That's a whole different topic. But I got to tell you though, when you are working with the families, often though the parents are wired different than the children, but parents aren't aware of this. So you can get a very rigid sensei judger, and they're like, I told you to be ready at 9:12, and it's 9:13, and they're totally mad, but the kid's a perceiver. The kids are kind of more found in the future, but they're wired different. So I think it's important to go through it and have the parents brain tech themselves too. A lot of this is in the book that I have called Raising Athletic Royalty. And that's kind of like a script for what the parents should be saying compared to what they do say. And you've heard it all before. But all right, last category. If you can judge yourself, this is great. Judgers versus perceivers. Judgers are people that prefer structure. They want things settled first, orderly, precise. They normally like to make a list before they do things. They prefer work before they get to play. Perceivers are opposite. They're adaptable. They're flexible. They're perceivers. Their thoughts are often found in the future. So now think about this. You're coaching a tennis player. And if they're a perceiver, if their thoughts are often in the future, not in the present, how is that going to affect them when they get up? They're in the finals. They're up 5-2 in the second set. What's a perceiver thinking about? Where the trophy's going to go in my room, right? What's my ranking going to go to? What are my friends going to say? Now it's 5-5. They blew it because their brain is not in the present. So it's important. If you know how they're wired, you can cut it off and you can cut it off in the past and fix things before they even have trouble. Last week my wife and I are kind of a little bit opposite too with this stuff. When she's a judger, I'm a perceiver. But actually, that's one of the reasons why these books are finished, is because my judger wife does all the editing. And I'm the perceiver. I have all these big ideas. I'm like, oh, God bless her. I can't finish this. And she's good at that kind of stuff. So a friend of ours said, call us at 6 o'clock at night, and they go, we're going to go to the movie. You guys want to go with us to the movie? Right? And my wife goes, wait, let me look at the calendar. How about the second Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock? And then they ask me, they go, when do you want to go to the movie? They call it 6, and they go, at 7. And I go, okay, I'll get my coat. I'm a perceiver. I'll get my coat. I go, okay, just go. I can adapt. I can be flexible. But some judges cannot be flexible at all. So you want to know that about parents, too, because judger parents really wig out when they go to a tournament, and the tournament's supposed to start at 10 a.m., and now the tournament director says, we're running a little late. We're going to start at 11:30. Judges freak out. What do you mean 11:30? What kind of business are you running? And they go kind of nuts with it. So anyway, have some fun with that. And let's keep on going with this little booklet. Understanding, besides your brain type, by the way, is your body type. And you guys that have been coaching for years, you get it. They're fine motor skill dominant people. You can see players that are, if they're wired from their elbow down to their fingertips, they're very fast with their hands. And their hands are their greatest blessing and greatest curse. They can hit spectacular winners, but then when they play against moonball pushers and the ball comes in 2 speeds, it comes slow and slower. Now they don't know when to roll the wrist. And they lose to pushers, but they can play against hard hitters because they get that rhythm that they really prefer. They like the rhythm. So fine motor skill people are different. Gross motor skill people like to use the larger muscle groups. And gross motor skill people are usually found behind the court more. And fine motor skill usually like the net more. How many players here, when you used to play, were more fine motor skill dominant? Good hands. Yeah. How about the opposite? Calm, quiet hands. Yeah. Chris Everett, right? That's a good example of the whole calm. If you look at the Williams sisters, Serena is more gross motor skill than Venus. Venus is really fine motor skilled. You'll see Venus falling over sometimes on shots, but she can get her hands to the right place. She's a little bit different body type. And the question though, does that affect how you train them? What do you think? Absolutely. Last couple of things. We want our players, and even the family, we want them to organize their game styles. So when they go into a tournament, for example, they can say, well, my A plan is I'm a hard-hitting baseliner. B, I'm going to counter punch, stay back, keep balls in play. C, I'm going to be a drop shot artist, or I'm going to be a net rusher. We want them to know what they do best, first, second, and third, and have multiple game plans. So when you guys are actually running clinics, try to have your players play matches against good people and use their A plan. But have them play matches against weaker people, but use their B or C plans. You get it? It's really important they develop B or C. So I'll give you a personal story about B or C. When my daughter Sarah played the U.S. Open, at 15, she played Barbara Ratner, who was 30 years old, 80 in the world. And Sarah was, I think, 258 in the world because she got a lot of wild cards from the USTA. It really did help a lot. But anyway, Barbara gets into the first round match. Barbara comes out, hard-hitting baseliner. Sarah goes up 6-4. So we're thinking, man, she can win a set at the U.S. Open. This is incredible. This is great. So Sarah wins the first set. Second set, Sarah's up 4-1. Barbara gets up, comes out during the changeover, starts to do serve and volley, chip and charge, go in on everything. Sarah is already kicking her butt there all the way up to 4-1 with that style. And then Barbara Retner comes out at 4-1 in the second set, if I remember now. Barbara comes out and begins a moonball push at 4-1 in the second set. So in front of 2,000 people, every ball is as high as the lights, and my daughter Sarah yells, "I hate pushers." And Barbara goes, "What?" And guess what Barbara did the rest of the second set? Moonball push. She won 6-4. Guess what Barbara did the whole third set? Moonball push. So Barbara won, I still remember, $15,800 for that one match. Because she was classy enough to be good at 3 different styles. So, and that's part of your plan too when you're developing kids that want to be competitive. That they understand that they have to be good at more than one style. Does that make sense? Okay. Spotting opponent styles and completing your daily. We'll do some weekly planners at the end here, but spotting the opponent styles. When you get to go to tournaments, do you guys go to tournaments with your players? Yeah, most? Sometimes? How often do you? Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to take a day off work to go and then it's funny, you go to like the 9 o'clock match, and then all of a sudden the kid that plays at 12, their parents see you, right? They're like, "Oh, this is so great, you're here, my kid plays it." Next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock at night, you miss another family dinner, right? It's tough, but anyway, when you go to tournaments, try to educate the younger kids to spot styles. Like, look down the row of tournament play. And your players should be able to go, that's a hard-hitting baseliner, retriever, net rusher. And try to get them to spot styles so then they can run the appropriate patterns later. Okay. You all right with that stuff? Let's keep going. Match day preparation. This is real important too, so we're going to talk about it a little bit today. I use this a lot with educating tennis parents because honestly, we're not there. Guess who's warming up the player? Guess who's morphing the player into the warrior? It's the parent. And if the parent is uninformed, man, they can sabotage everything good you did in the past month. They can blow it in 10 minutes if they don't know what to say. So it's important. So I'm going to cover this as what I use, and you guys can adapt it if you like. The equipment preparation. You want to make sure that the junior players are preparing all their equipment. We don't want the parents to be, you remember the term helicopter parents? They do everything for the kid. They pack the bags, carry the bags, cut their salad. That kid is doomed if you have a helicopter parent. Pre-match visualization, proper warm-ups. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Scouting of the opponent. Let's cover that just for a second. We'll move on to the next chapter. Typical parents scout opponents like this. They go, say it again?
Hey, are you seeing though, that's what's amazing, a lot of coaches are seeing this here, how these kids and parents are training? For example, the kids are training the parents what to do to become helicopter. And for example, a lot of
Yeah.
competitions,
Yeah.
what you just said, man, that kid's never going to mount, he's going to be a punk because mom and dad carrying the bags, cutting the salad, and all of a sudden this same kid is just balling in the third set, pulls matches out and going. And my philosophy just totally screwed up. Was like, but what reality is, the kid's got the parent trained. You're going to carry my bag. You'll keep carrying it for the next 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And they're gutsy players because they're smart and they train the parents versus the parents training the
Yeah.
kids.
But they can't handle competition, right? They get into the match with strangers and they fall apart, right? But they can control their parents. I mean,
And what I'm saying,
yeah.
these same kids are now some of these top kids in the nation.
Yeah.
And they're just, wow. I thought it was going to be a punk because we all learned that, don't cut salad for them,
Yeah.
but they are. But these are you
So,
agree with this? Or you
well, but so my question though is, would they have maximized potential faster if they learned how to solve their own problems? Sometimes we take the long road instead of the shortest road. You know what I mean by that? And so that could be an example of that. I think it's all customized to the individual, but I do see that a lot though, where the parents allow the kids. Then it gets almost abusive, right? Like I said, get my salad. And you're like, what the?
Yeah, I mean, I've honestly just seen it and traveling a little bit and going,
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference between the kid and the dad.
And,
But
but
they look the same.
okay, but exactly that. What's one of the reasons why we want to do tennis parent education, though, right? It's important. You think about the life skill. Once the kid now goes to college, they're toast, right? Or even gets a job later. And so what we're looking for really, we're using all these tools for life skills, right? And you want to build character. Because here's, in my opinion, the bottom line is, and I think you're right on, by the way, because I have I won't name names, but I have kids that I've taught that are now top 30 in the world right now that were just like that, where they control their parents at the younger age. But really, though, what we're trying to do, that's an exception to the rule. But the rule really is we want to develop the process, right? The process, that gets the results. And what develops the process is life skills. Time management, resiliency, things like that, right? Anyway, so let's go back to this thing about scouting the opponent. So what unfortunately, a lot of parents do is they say things like, okay, honey, this girl is ranked, 80 spots above you. They've never lost to anybody you know. They've already won the Charlotte Open and the Greenville Open, and they won 2 nationals. Good luck. That's how they opponent profile. That's silly. The kid's going to not be able to even walk to the court. So scouting the opponent, and you guys can help if you're in the lesson with the junior, help the juniors understand this, but you want them to be scouting the style of play. Okay, I'm going to be playing a hard-hitting baseliner. What are the strokes, weaknesses, and strengths or movement? What's the opponent's favorite patterns, if you can pick out favorite patterns? Frustration tolerance level. This girl or guy seems to be getting 4 or 5 balls in. She has no backhand, that type of thing. So there's different forms. You guys as coaches, we all think scouting the opponent sounds like this, but really the reality that the parents are doing some really wicked stuff out there. Okay, you guys okay so far? Let's go to the next little chapter. Primary and secondary strokes. Great chapter. And by the way, if you're in the business of increasing revenue, you're going to do way more lessons if the tennis parents are educated. Let's just look at this, for example. Primary and secondary strokes. So here's the analogy. You have a paint set. And we're talking about just painting for a second. We go to the Staples, we get the primary strip of paint. But it only has a black, brown, blue, green, just primary colors. Now, if you're painting with only primary colors, your paintings are always going to be intermediate. If you could be in the old folks' home, 92 years old, your paintings still are, you're painting with primary. But if you paint with primary and secondary colors, if you don't have one green but 12 versions of green, now you learn when and where to use the different versions of green. Secondary colors, now your paintings are lifelike and you can even make money painting. Well, exactly the same analogy is used with tennis. You don't want to just train primary strokes, you want to train secondary strokes. Because players need secondary strokes to beat moonball pusher retrievers and things like that. So from today forward, let's kind of look at it like this. Your players don't have a forehand. They have 5 different forehands. They have the drive, they have the high and heavy arc, like the Rafa Nadal, 6 to 8 feet over the net, that takes it up out of the opponent's strike zone. Develop your short angles. We nickname them side door shots. You hit a ball that rolls over the sideline. It might get the retriever away from the baseline. Slice, your defensive running slices, drop shot slices, lobs. And we all know this stuff, but we don't really categorize it enough. Same thing with backhands. You have 5 different backhands to teach. You have 3 different serves to teach. In volleys, we don't just have the person stand at the net and do traditional punch volleys, but they have to do transition volleys, swing volleys, drop volleys, right? So you get the idea that these are all tools in their tool belt, especially if they want to play higher levels. How many players here, or sorry, how many coaches here, how many of you guys teach players that are only hobbyists? That's it. They just want to be hobbyists. All right, how many people teach competitive levels? Like, okay. And how about players that do want to play college ball? Maybe not just competitive high school, but college. Do you even get people that go, yeah, we want to try to be on the pro tour? Did anybody here get any players that have high aspirations like that?
Whole bunch of time.
Most of 10 unders for you? All right, good. Yeah, interesting though, this is one of the comments I get most of the time when I do big tennis parent workshops. Here's what parents say. My kid's 16, why wasn't anybody telling me this when my kid was 10? This is your job. You do this stuff early, you'll keep them for a lifetime. So it's pretty big. All right, so let's go to the next chapter. We're going to kind of wind down a little bit. See the on-court emotional issues? Have the players go through 1 to 10, and obviously you want to design your own version of this. You can improve upon this thing, in my opinion. But almost all of these emotional issues, like mistake management and not having a plan, or designing patterns, handling gamesmanship, your mind wandering, your focus, it's all solved by having better between-point rituals, or changeover rituals. So really spend some time designing between-point rituals, how they get over the last point, how they plan the next point's patterns, how they walk up and then kind of relaxation rituals, right? Make sure that you talk about that to your players and parents. And by the way, when I talk to players, even top nationally ranked kids, about rituals, they almost always talk about external, not internal. External is, they go, yeah, I look at my strings, and I go to the towel, and I get a drink. But internal would be, the thought process. So, let me give you an example of the thought process here. This is an actual, a couple years back, Ryan and Skylar were playing at my club, and they're sparring, and Skylar's never won a national, but this kid's 14 and can hit 100-mile-an-hour serves at 14. So big, strong player. But the other kid's already won 3 nationals. So we'll go through, here's the situation that day, between point rituals. Skylar hits a big kick serve out wide, and Ryan goes out, hits a defensive slice backhand. Sky runs in, nails the volley into the alley, and just chucks his racket down and goes, see, that's why I suck. I can't volley. I'm so bad. And I try to go talk to him, and he puts his palm up like, dude, I don't want to talk. Shh. And then he double faults, loses the game. Well, a couple of games later, the other kid, Ryan, hits the same kick serve out wide. Skylar reaches out, slices, defense. Now the other guy, Ryan, runs it, hits the same volley into the same alley. Same mistake. Turns and smiles on the way back. And I'm thinking, I gotta see this. I gotta hear this. So I walk over to him and I go, what are you thinking? He goes, well, didn't you see it? Skylar has no high backhand. Whenever I need a point on the ad side, I'm going to kick it up to his backhand. So he didn't even mention the volley he missed. He mentioned the optimistic, positive things, right? So that's kind of what we want. We want to teach our kids about between-point rituals, is spot the optimistic things you're doing correctly. If they might hit 5 great shots, miss a volley. Instead of whining about the volley, talk about the 5, positives. All right, you guys okay with that? Let's look at the emotional component. Teach the mental component. I think it's really important that you design patterns to beat every style of opponent. So you guys help me out. I'm a beginning parent, for example. What would you recommend if the parent's calling you after the match, go, she did it again. She lost to another moonball pusher. What do you think that player should develop? What are some of the skill sets they could use to pull a pusher out of their game plan? What do you think? You guys tell me. What would you tell the parent and the player? What would you start working on? How to beat a moonball pusher retriever. Any patterns? Come on, you guys. Would rallying hard back and forth help?
No.
Yeah. Short angle?
Out, yeah, inside out.
Yeah? Good, great.
Yeah.
Try to use this image as an analogy for the parents. The moonball pusher is like a goalie in soccer. Now, as long as the goalie is standing right in front of the goal, you can't score a goal. But if you roll your short angles to the side and get this goalie away from the goal, now you can score your goals. Hit behind the run or whatever. That's big. Moonball approach shot to swing volleys. That's big. Develop your drop shots. Usually remember one of the weakest shots with a really great retriever, the weakest shot they have is their second serve. They usually put a second serve in, 50 miles an hour. You know what side of the court it's coming to. And guess what they do after they do the second serve? Check out my footwork. Here's a great retriever. They serve. They push back. They go, ready. Let's moonball. But if you have drop shots, you're in shape. But that brings us back to secondary strokes. You remember primary, secondary? If you ain't got secondary strokes, you're not going to beat a moonball pusher. Unless you're a better moonball pusher than they are. Then you just pack a lunch. And you tell the parents, just pick her up in about 4 hours. That's okay. But,
And it goes to the statement, imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
yeah, right.
I mean, how do we actually go and train to be the moonball pusher? We keep making the statement, but at some point you had to go train to be
Well,
the
that's
moonball
absolutely.
pusher.
And if I had a player that comes to me and they say, my kid can't be the moonball pusher, I would ask them to, if they're at elementary school, I would say hire a high school player, ask them to role play, give them $15 an hour, and make them be the most annoying moonball pusher ever. And then our player would have to run those patterns. If they're already in high school and they're good, you want to maybe hire a college player to spar. You get it?
What you just said is because usually a moonball pusher doesn't want to go play the same moonball pusher.
Yeah, true.
Because then they go, you're supposed to be trying to drop shot, you're supposed to be trying to you're supposed to be trying to rush the net.
That's a good point. And but that's also why sometimes it doesn't work if you're asking another junior to spar. Because you know another junior pushes in tournaments. And you go play against the junior, but the parents said, look, work on your drives today, don't push. And then they don't. So, but yeah, that's a great, with the whole mental side. Tell me, what are some of the things you want to be able to get your students to do if they're losing to hard-hitting baseliners? What do they need to do? What's some great tactical, mental, tactic strategies? What was it?
Go talk to the pusher.
Yeah. Start your own Moonball Pusher Academy where everybody goes.
One thing you can do in a changeover, sometimes you just make a simple statement like, you're playing great tennis today. I've never played someone so well.
All right,
So
so
someone starts thinking about how good they're hitting the ball that day and go down.
so you're doing reverse psychology to the opponent, right?
It's more of a
Yeah, that's good head games right there.
yeah, head games, exactly.
Here's some things to work on the practice court would be mix up the spin speed trajectories. Because hard-hitting baseliners like the same ball speed at waist level, 70 miles an hour right there. And now you give them high and heavy, 50 miles an hour, slice low below their knees, and like we were talking about last night, you got to change things up. You got to mix it up sometimes against people that are hard hitters. But, so you want to find out their deficiencies and what they don't like. We know hard hitters don't like high and heavy. I was doing a workshop in Barcelona, Spain. They have a drill, it's called How to Beat the Americans. The whole drill is don't hit low and hard because Americans just stand there and they just crush it back and forth all day on the practice court. They can do this all day. But go high and heavy, push them back, put the ball up here. Us as Americans, we give them a short ball and they run in, ahee! Kill the winner. But they're smart. They're not giving us the ball we like to hit, right? How about net rushers? Your student is losing to net rushers all the time. What are some of the things they might want to do to beat net rushers?
Lob.
Yeah, have a good lob. Yeah. Keep balls deep, because if you're hitting short, right? Keep first serves in at a slower speed, because if you're hitting second serves, that's their ticket to the net. Right? There's tactical, mental things you can do against every style to diffuse. How about like jump the ball low at their feet when they're coming in instead of trying to crush a winner on the very first ball?
Right there at the chest.
Yeah.
The other hits back fist, hits him in the mouth.
He has all the tricks. Like if you can't beat him, just give him the fuzz sandwich and they're toast. All right, come on, let's go. A couple more. We're going to take a break in a sec, but especially during the second half, you guys, we need some more live interaction. And even the people that are sitting in back, if you come sit in front, it'll help. I won't have to scream so much. Who are the extroverts in the room? Extroverts. Okay, cool. Benefits of physical training. One of the things that I find more often than not is that kids need to be better athletes, especially the younger kids. My opinion, if a kid wants to be a top Division I player, when they're age 8 to 15, they should be doing like 4 hours a week, tennis-specific off-court, doing their cardio, speed, agility, med balls, not even hitting balls, not even tennis balls at all. That's a huge part. But from an extrovert standpoint, can you read out the following list, the top 10 benefits of being fit? Why being fit is going to help.
Increased confidence, elevate physical energy, enhance endurance, reduce fatigue and soreness. Sorry, intimidation factor. My glasses are dark. Intimidation factor.
Okay, right on the money. You all understand, we all get it, especially if you used to play a lot. These are big, these are important. But we need to educate the parents as to why it's so important. And do you guys have an off-court tennis-specific station in your academy or as part of your program, or they're just working on being a better athlete? That's meaningful if you can do that. Add that to your club's resume. For the parents and players that don't believe you that being fit is important, I have them do this reality check. So the bottom line is if they're going to get into, let's say, a big 64 draw tournament, maybe they're going to even qualify for the Easter Bowl in a couple months. Well, if they're going to win the Easter Bowl in a one-week tournament, they're going to play about 15 sets of singles, 8 sets of doubles in 5 days. Because honestly, when was the last time your players played 15 sets in 1 week? Never. They don't. They play like 1 set, 2 sets a week, maybe if we're lucky, right? But that's big. We want to give this reality to the parents that, man, your kid has to be in shape. Otherwise, their batteries are going to be drained by the third match. And this is why a lot of our players lose by the third round. They're not physically fit enough. So when you go to tournaments, check this out. Next time you go, you see 10 times more antics by the second or third day. First day, people are pretty cool and chill. By the third day, they're throwing rackets, cursing, yelling, because they're too tired. They're too tired to even be out there. Their whole train of thought is not, how do I beat this toad? It's, how do I get to my towel? I'm dead. This is crazy. So that's big. Being physically fit is big. Okay, flip over. Weekly planners. Try to use this. And again, it's customizing. I really encourage you guys. This is important for me, but don't pull all of the players into the same mode of training. Customize it. Remember we talked about the school methodology? And there's like math, science, English. We'll cover that again a little bit later, but here's your components in tennis. Off-court in the gym, off-court cardio, primary strokes, secondary strokes, pattern development, completing practice matches, video analysis, watching one. What I would encourage is have the parents videotape one match a tournament. They book a private lesson with you, and you sit in your office and you watch the match with the player. And we'll go through later on today, we'll talk about all the things you can pick up in the art of winning if you're watching video. So that helps a lot. With this weekly planner, think this through. What are most of your players doing? Which component are they doing most of the time? Yeah, primary strokes. And we almost get to the point where players train 15, 20 hours a week, and they're doing 18 hours of just primary strokes back and forth. And that's probably not going to develop a well-rounded player, right? So try to hit all the different components. All right, we'll do one more thing, then I think we're good to take a break, right? All right. All right, last thing. Top 7 patterns. I'll give you a quick story. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's funny, you know, 15 years ago, I took these 2 groups. Sam Correa was in the group, a girl named Vanya King, who won the Wimbledon and U.S. Open 2010 doubles. She's in the Australian Open again this year. They were in this group too. But we did a really interesting study. I realized that for the first 15 years of teaching, I blew it. I probably ruined so many kids. It's amazing. But here's where we found all this out. We took 2 groups. We trained one group the old school method, which was go out, do mini tennis, rally cross court to each other, rally cross court the other way to each other. One guy goes to the net, and one girl, and you hit right to that person. Then she puts your finger up, you lob short right to them. Now you're practicing, are you practicing in the manner you're expected to perform or not when you're doing that? What do you think? Not. Is tennis a game of catch or keep away? Keep away at the higher level. So I blew it. I've been playing catch for 15 years. Anyway. With this group, we trained one group that way still. For 6 weeks, the other group, all we did was this top 7. We never let the kids rally. They had to play their top service patterns to the deuce, top service patterns to the ad side. And remember, with all the tennis studies, even in pro tennis, the average point is about 4 hits. Right? Oh, I think it was 50-60% of every point ends by the 3rd or 4th hit. So it's all about serve patterns, return patterns, top rally patterns, net rushing patterns. Let me have a volunteer. Somebody raise your hand to volunteer. We're going to talk about your top patterns. Who used to play a lot? College ball? Yeah? Okay, so let's go through. When you were playing, what was your top serving pattern to the deuce side?
Kick down the middle.
All right, so kick to the backhand.
Yeah.
And then what would you do with the next shot, next groundie? Or volley, if you were serving volley.
Yeah, I like to volley.
All right, so serving volley.
Yeah,
So you'd come and hit to the, would you go back to the backhand, like a double backhand?
depends on the shot.
Okay. Well, Agassi would call that the double backhand pattern. I was doing stats with Dick Braden about 15 years ago with Roddick, and Andre Agassi served to the backhand and hit to the backhand. It was like 89% of the time. You didn't want to hit. And that's pattern play, right? How about serving to the ad side? Did you have a favorite ad side?
Same thing.
All right.
More of a twist, kick them out real wide.
So you kick them out wide, come in, probably knock up a volley. Yeah, we always love the serving volley stuff. I took some top players to the Indian Wells tournament. Rafa was playing Ryan Harrison, and they're charting top patterns. These juniors. I'm trying to get the juniors to the point where they're not just running patterns, but they can spot the opponent's patterns, because obviously it's meaningful to know what they're going to do. Rafa did, I think it was 88%. Rafa would do a slice serve out wide, and then the inside out. He did that exact pattern, 88%, won 3 and 3, saved all of his battery life for the next round. Get it? Running your patterns. Have your children practice running patterns, not just hitting to each other. How about your favorite position and return a serve against a first serve? Do you have a favorite place to stand and a
Step or two behind the baseline, but moving forward.
Okay, so you're going to move in when you hit? Are you trying to go hard up the middle? Are you going cross court, depending on the ball?
It depends on where I'm in the match. Early in the match, I'll go more right at them and then expand it as I get
Cool.
comfortable.
That's really cool. I heard Yvonne Lendl call that the accordion theory.
That's what I call it.
Yeah. You guys all hear that? It's pretty cool. When you're not used to the person's ball speed or spin, keep balls in the middle. As you get used to their game, you can now start going wider to the corners. That's big, I think. How many times do we get our young guns and they're trying to crush the line the first ball of the match? How about top rally patterns? How do you get somebody vulnerable? Yeah, do you have yours? Yeah, we'll do a couple more with.
Rally, yeah.
You guys know the Spanish way.
I like hit heavy cross-court top spin to the backhand and look for the forehand.
Okay, good. The same as the Spanish way. And top net rushing pattern? You have a top net wrestling? Are you chip and charge? Some girls nowadays like moonball approach to swing volley more.
I like chip and charge on any way I can.
Okay, yeah. So here's something meaningful. Have your players design their top 7 patterns. Have them practice running their top 7 patterns. And then encourage them when they're in a match. You know how matches go like in tipping points where it could sway either way? Encourage your players to run their top patterns. Do what they do best under stress on the big points. I'm even talking about game points, like add in, add outs. Add in, add outs, do what you do best. And all your kids, the matches that they lost 6-4, they're going to win 6-4. Just by running their patterns. So get it? That's your top 7. Okay, I think that's good for this half, don't you think? All right.